Well, here we are in the beginning of January, and we have flowers on a lot of the mangoes. This particular tree happens to be Nam Doc Mai, and it is just covered with flowers. It looks in general like the Southeast Asian varieties are just making a spectacle of themselves, but there are other varieties too that are doing great. We have, well, right here we've got a sort of a pretty good bloom. When you look at the branch tips, just about every one has flowers. It's just that the growth habit of this particular tree is a lot different from the Nam Doc Mai, so it doesn't look like there's as great of a bloom, but it's actually pretty good. This particular tree happens to be Kit, and so with Kit, this tree makes big mangoes, so it doesn't need to have a ton of flowers to have large poundage of fruit coming from this tree. Some years it's just completely loaded, and I think it's probably hundreds of pounds for some years. We hope that this is a good year. We'll just have to see, but as I say, there's lots of bloom even though it doesn't look that spectacular, and we are expecting a fair amount of fruit, hoping that it comes through for us. This is a tree that we top worked. I think that there might be two varieties on it. Unfortunately, I don't think we had a lot of fruit last year, and we didn't mark the tree. So this year we're hoping for a lot of fruit, and we will be able to tell what variety it is. Here's a tree that doesn't have any flowers at all, and that's sort of to be expected. This is a tree that I am converting part of the tree to another variety. So we cut everything way back to top work it, and the top work project is coming along. It's not finished yet, but hopefully next year we'll get lots of flowers on this tree. Then we have this one. This is just lovely. This particular tree is lemon meringue or Popier-Calais, and it is just covered with flowers. And I've gone through like a couple of these lemon meringue trees and looked for any branch tip that doesn't have flowers, and actually in this like little row of lemon meringue, I couldn't find one branch tip that that didn't have big flowers like this, or just an emerging panicle. So of course all of the flowers are not going to turn into mangoes, but you can't get a lot of mangoes without a lot of flowers. So we're hoping for a good year, and it looks really good for lemon meringue. So the lighting's not so good for these, but there are lots and lots of flowers. These next three trees are all lemon meringue, and lots of flowers on each of them. So lemon meringue, we had a decent season last year, but not a spectacular one. We always have a pretty good amount of this particular variety because we have a lot of trees, a lot of lemon meringue trees. But we also have a lot of demand for lemon meringue fruit. And so we're hoping for a really good year so that we don't have any disappointed customers. So both sides here, lemon meringue. And then we get into some Carrie. So Carrie's another crazy popular variety, and it's got a lot of flowers. We didn't have very much Carrie fruit last year, and this year we've got the flowers. As long as they turn into fruit, we're going to be able to satisfy a lot more of the Carrie customers. So we'll just have to cross our fingers. It's looking good so far, though. This next one here, this is sweet tart. So we've, it's mostly out of reach, but a lot of flower panicles. So you can see just about every branch tip has a panicle on it. There's some of these lower ones that, well, here, for instance, this one looks like just leaves, but you look here, this is a panicle that is just very young. It's going to come out and be flowers. Pretty sure of that. So even though that doesn't look promising yet, I think soon it's going to be like this, and then of course get into the the mature panicle stage after that. So hopefully sweet tart will have a good year also. Yeah, one thing that we actually started doing today is spraying nutrients and such on the mango leaves. So that's why these leaves are looking a little different. That is just the different, dried solution of the spray mix that we used. So that's a good sign, because this plant has gotten some extra nutrition and such, and so hopefully that means we'll have a lot of even more fruit than we would if we hadn't sprayed. And of course, when we spray, we're spraying with all that OMRI certified products. Every spray mix practically that we use includes kelp grow, but there's all sorts of other nutrients that we spray, and we grow things organically, so we're very careful that whatever we're spraying on the trees is all organically approved or OMRI certified for organic use products. So even though it doesn't look like, well, it's not rainwater, it's not bad for you either. It's nice OMRI certified products. And then here we are with another Carrie. So get to see more Carrie flowers. Flowers don't mean necessarily that you'll have fruit, but if no flowers definitely means you're not getting fruit. So flowers are a good thing, and the weather's been nice so far, so we're hoping the weather stays good for the flowers and the young fruit. More Carrie here. We grow a lot of Carrie because we've got a lot of Carrie loving customers. And this is our last Carrie here. One little branch that got trimmed months ago it was sort of hanging out in the tree, but doesn't need to be there anymore. So here is a really fun tree as far as I'm concerned. This was a top work project, and I was afraid that it wouldn't have enough time to recover from the drastic trimming that I did in order to top work this tree. You have to cut things way back, and then whatever I graft onto it grows very quickly, and a lot of times fast growing plants do not flower. Their energy is going to making new leaves. But fortunately, we do have flowers on this. Not every branch tip has panicles, but there are a significant amount of flowers on this tree. So hopefully we'll get some fruit. The variety that I grafted on to this particular tree was Pineapple Pleasure, which I think is a fantastic variety. The original tree is Valencia Pride, which is a really nice variety, but we have a lot of Valencia Pride trees. So I cut this way back and was grafting Pineapple Pleasure onto it, but I suspect that these really tall branches in the middle are probably Valencia Pride. And so when the fruit happens, I'm going to be marking the branches that have Valencia Pride, and I'll cut those back after the fruit is off. And if they sprout out, I'll try to, graft the Pineapple Pleasure onto the young shoots. But it's really not a bad thing to have Pineapple Pleasure and Valencia Pride on the same tree. Both very nice varieties. So we have some really nice flowers on a lot of these trees. This particular row is Glen, and it looks like we'll have a pretty good season for Glen. This is another Carrie tree. Nice, everything, the blooms look nice and healthy, and the leaves look great. Crossing our fingers that the weather stays good for the mango development, but it's looking good so far. And this is crazy. This is, just flowers everywhere. And that's a good thing, because this is another very nice variety, and this is Fruit Punch. And Fruit Punch has just been very popular, and so it's really nice that it looks like we have a good year coming up. But of course you can't count on it until you pick the fruit from the tree. But there are just a lot of flowers, and they are looking gorgeous. So here's a knot mango. And then these last two trees here are both lemon meringue, and they are looking gorgeous. Lots and lots of flowers on them. So again, hoping for a good year. We're not counting our mangoes yet before they actually, are ready to pick. But at least we have the flowers that indicate that it might be a good year for mangoes. So here's an interesting tree. This is right near the sales area, so a lot of people notice it. This tree started out being Fairchild, and part of it is still Fairchild, but we have added some varieties. What we're seeing right in this area is St. Maui, and the other side is is this part that's going crazy here. Flowers all over the place. That is not St. Maui. That is Si Tong, and so that is a relative of Nam Doc Mai, and it, like Nam Doc Mai, is flowering like crazy. This tree here is mostly Venus, and not a lot of flowers going on here. We're not really too concerned about the lack of flowers yet, because Venus is a late season mango, and so it gets a little pass on, like not having a great flower or bloom yet. We'll probably send out more panicles, and also the fruit are very big, so the tree can't support a huge number of big fruit. So we're hoping for more, and we'll just see how it goes. So here's another Carrie. This is Duncan. Always very productive. A lot of flowers there. Lots and lots of flowers here. Look gorgeous in this light. This is Nam Doc Mai again. And then here is Pineapple Pleasure. So we'll have potentially Pineapple Pleasure in two different areas. And then way on the end, we have a lot of bloom that looks fairly old. And unfortunately, some of it got hit by powdery mildew. But this is Rosa, and it just blooms and fruits very early. And sometimes it gets a little powdery mildew, but there is just so much bloom on this tree. I think we'll have quite a few fruit, even though we have a few panicles that seem to have powdery mildew on it. So with all this bloom, oh, there we go. You see some fruit up on the top. You know, Rosa is one of the first ones to fruit. So we've got a cluster of fruit up there on the very top. But for all the bloom that we've been looking at, it takes like about 4 months between the time that the plant blooms and when the fruit is ready. Of course, it does vary a little bit because small fruit tend to take less time to develop, and larger fruit take more time. But even though we're seeing a lot of wonderful flowers now, it's not yet time to get your fork and knife out. You have to be a little bit more patient, or patient for a little bit longer. This is another lemon meringue tree. Lovely bloom, love the stuff on top, all those panicles getting a nice late afternoon lighting there. So it's looking good for lemon meringue. We've got Carrie over here. Carrie seems like almost every branch tip has a panicle on it, and the panicles all look very healthy. Carrie, of course, is a cross between Valencia Pride and Carrie. It's got a lot of fans. And we have another tree with lots of panicles, and this is another lemon meringue. So, should be making a lot of lemon meringue customers happy. This is a tree that I top worked, and I think that the flowers are the original variety, which was Valencia Pride, and so it'll be next year probably before we, well, I'm not sure. Some of this lower stuff I think was actually, this is a grafted stuff, so I guess we might be getting some of the grafted stuff too. Pretty darn sure. Yeah, this was an unfortunate thing. When you have a lot of young growth, the young growth is heavier than the old growth. There's a lot of water and stuff in young growth, and so it can really weigh down, and then the branches are not as strong too on the young growth. And so this is what happened. This was a grafted part of the tree. I mean, it grew very fast. The graft is down here, and then right here it split. It was just too heavy. So following this branch down, this whole thing it's still alive. But after this season, I'm hoping that it makes fruit and that it's able to support the fruit, because it does, you know, it's sort of hanging on by well, more than a thread, but not much more. So anyway, if we do get fruit, we'll try to, you know, have it grow to maturity, and then after we harvest it, we'll be cutting this branch all the way back, because this is not a good long-term situation when you have a tear like that. It's pretty serious, but again, still supporting that's, you know, all the growth on that branch. So anyway, still looking good. We might have, you know, it seems like we'll have Valencia Pride, and we might have some of the grafted variety, which is orange sherbet. And then we have Jahangir. And Jahangir is looking pretty darn good. There's a lot of panicles. There's, like, this does not looking like there's flowers, but they might be coming. Some of these buds look like they could be flower buds. Like this, it looks pretty fat. There we go. So we'll see. But Jahangir is a very nice variety, and the trees stay small too, so that's nice. The fruit are fairly unimpressive if you just look at them, because it's green-skinned and not, you know, exceptionally looking at all. But the taste is great. And then we have another small tree. This is Juliet. It has a similar growth pattern to the Jahangir, and so that's why we planted it right next door. And Juliet is really looking good. Lots and lots of flowers, and they just are gorgeous with the red stems on the panicles. So hopefully we'll get a good Juliet crop. It's obviously is related to Julie. It's I think a seedling of Julie, and the season is a little bit later. It has an overlap with Julie, but then goes later, and basically everybody who likes Julie likes Juliet, so that's good to extend the Julie season a little bit. And then here is another lemon meringue, and tons of flowers. And this is one of our fun trees. Fun in that this is actually a Valencia Pride, and I'm not sure why, but it's sort of dwarf. I'm sure that somebody somewhere has a Valencia Pride that's more dwarf than this, but you know, this is a pretty old tree, and it's like not much bigger, if at all bigger, than the Juliet that we just looked at. So anyway, this particular Valencia Pride is staying Valencia Pride. I'm not top working that, because when you get a small Valencia Pride tree, that's something. This, on the other hand, used to be a huge Valencia Pride, and it got cut way back, and I've actually top worked some of this, but the Valencia Pride growth is, I think, dominating. I'm going to have to really watch this tree when it fruits to see what's Valencia Pride and what's the other variety. And the other variety is fruit punch, because we can't get enough fruit punch. So it should be easy to tell those two varieties apart, which is one of the reasons why I use this tree. But my goodness, the Valencia Pride, when it has space to grow, just really shoots up. You know, that is, you know, like more than 6 feet in a year that it's grown in that center part of the tree. And here's a Valencia Pride that we didn't mess with. So we've got some flowers on it. It's still got some flowering to do, but it does look like there's flower buds on the end of at least some of these panicles. This got nice flowers here. This is Paige, and Paige is a rather large mango. Yeah, really, not too many people have tasted it, but the ones who have really like it. The mango's pretty darn big. The main thing that I notice about the fruit is that it will never be a commercial variety, because when it gets ripe, you need to eat it like pretty soon after that. It doesn't have a long period where you know, you can eat it, or you know, maybe think about cutting it up and freezing it or whatever. It needs to be dealt with like pretty much you know, right when it ripens. It is very good, and you know, as I said, the fruit are rather large. And hopefully, with all this these flower panicles will get a significant amount of fruit this year, but when a tree makes big fruit, you don't get as many fruit from it. So we'll just have to see how it works out. And this is another Glen tree, looking pretty good. A lot of branch tips there. And this last tree in the row is not flowering at all, and the reason for that is it's another top work candidate, and so I have cut it back and grafted onto it, and next year it's going to be hopefully loaded with fruit, but I knew I'd be giving up some time, and this was one of the later top work projects, and so it's looking good for not 2025 but 2026. This is a fun tree. This is elephant mango, but since there's not a huge demand for elephant mango, I mean, it's a very nice mango eaten green, but I decided that it would be good to top work part of the tree. And so we have all these flowers over here, and these flowers are of Super Alfonso. And Super Alfonso is a variety that we haven't produced a lot of fruit of yet, and so I'm hoping that we get a decent amount of fruit from this area of the tree, and next year it should be really good. But we do have, panicles here, even in the interior of the tree. We've got, some emerging all over the place. So, crossing our fingers, hoping that we get a good crop of that. The Super Alfonso is a very nice mango, and it'd be nice if people could taste it, so get their own opinions. And we have this tree, which is looking gorgeous with all of its nice panicles, and this one is lemon zest. And of course, lemon zest has got a lot of fans, and so we're hoping that we have a lot of nice fruit this year, but we'll just see. Never know until it happens. And then finally, we have Dwarf Hawaiian. Dwarf Hawaiian is just going crazy with flowers. It's fairly typical. It's a very enthusiastic flowerer, and so all these flowers are looking very healthy. We're hoping for a very good season. Dwarf Hawaiian and Rosa are probably going to be the two varieties that will have the earliest fruit. So we are really happy that it's looking like a good year, and I think there are a few factors that have helped this be such a good year. At least at this point in time. It's like that counting chickens before they're hatched. You never know when we'll get a bad weather event, be it really cold weather or very windy weather. But we're just hoping that that doesn't happen, and that the weather continues to be gorgeous like it is right now. The things that have helped the plants have so many flowers this year, at least a lot of the plants, is that last year was bad, and so there's like pent-up demand in the trees. When they haven't flowered, I think that they require less of a trigger to flower than they would had they flowered before, like the year before. But also, we have been very conscientious about giving the trees nutrients that they need. And every tree in the grove this year has gotten K-mag and gypsum. And so with those amendments, it should be very helpful for not only the amount of fruit that the trees make, but also the quality of the fruit. Another factor that has influenced the the stage of the trees and therefore the flowering is trimming. And trimming, you've got to do it at the right time of year, because if you do it too late in, too close to when the trees are going to bloom, sometimes you can miss the bloom entirely, and that translates to no fruit. But we did our trimming as soon after the fruit were off of the tree as possible, and so the trees had plenty of time to recover and have like mature leaves on them. And then we got some cold, which is good. That sort of inspires the trees to flower, and so we had mature growth on the trees, and then the cold weather and made the flowers. So it just is, it seems like things are going well. I don't want to jinx it at all, but it's looking good, and I think it's a pretty darn good bet that this season's going to be better than last season. Of course, the bar was pretty low for last season.